Today's lesson is enjoying delicious bread. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Kiki.
And today we're talking about bread and more specifically how to enjoy delicious bread. I guess there are good kinds of bread and bad kinds of bread. Are you a bread lover, Kiki?
Roger, I gotta tell you, I am a bread fanatic. My dad actually calls me a breadhead because whenever I see a loaf of bread, I just can't control myself. I would finish a whole loaf by myself.
Wow. That's a great love of bread. For me, bread was just there. We used it to make sandwiches and stuff like that. I grew up in the country, so we just had basic white bread. But in any case, bread has become quite popular. And, of course, people in Taiwan love their bread as well. And today, we've got a conversation between Ned and Mandy. And Mandy has just gone shopping for some bread. So let's find out what she bought. Let's listen to today's conversation, and we'll come back to discuss it.
Enjoying delicious bread.
A bag full of bread. Ned is reading a book when his roommate Mandy comes home carrying a shopping bag.
Hi, Mandy. What's in the bag?
Let's see. I've got a baguette, a couple of bagels, a croissant, some banana bread, and a loaf of ciabatta bread.
Wow, that's a lot of bread. Why did you buy such an abundant supply?
You know that new bakery down the street? They're having a special sale. Everything's 40% off.
That's quite a bargain.
No kidding. And apparently their sales tactic worked because I got the urge to try quite a few of their offerings.
Well, they certainly look tasty. Are these your favorite kinds of bread?
Yeah, basically. Ciabatta with olive oil is hard to beat, for example. How about you?
Oh, I love all of these too. But I'm even more partial to some traditional Taiwanese breads.
Like what?
Pineapple buns, scallion bread, and pork floss buns, just to name a few.
大家好，第一部分我们可以看到形容词 abundant， 它指的是大量的、充足的或是丰富的。例如 Toby found a hidden lake where fish were abundant。Toby 发现一座隐秘的湖，里面有很多鱼。或者 The supermarket offers an abundant selection。那家超市供应丰富的商品选择。另外补充这个字的同义形容词 ample， A-M-P-L-E ample。例如 The restaurant has ample space for large parties。该餐厅拥有充足的空间，可以举行大型派对。又或者说Please don't ask questions during the presentation. You'll have ample time later. 请不要在简报中途提问，待会你会有充足的时间。接下来我们看到单字 urge， 它是名词，指的是强烈的欲望或是冲动。例如 Jake fought the urge to cry during the sad movie scene. 在这个悲伤的电影场景中 ，Jake 抑制想哭的冲动。或是Diane fought back the urge to laugh out loud. Diane 忍住了大笑的冲动。另外，这个字也可以当动词，有力劝、敦促或是激励的意思。例如 I urge you to rethink your decision. 我劝你重新考虑你的决定。再举一个例子 Brian urged his mother to see a doctor about her cough. Brian 劝妈妈找医生看她的咳嗽。
Okay, so again, we're talking about enjoying delicious bread, and this is part one, a bag full of bread. Before we continue, I must mention that the word bread is a non-count noun, even though you can count a loaf of bread or a roll or something like that, but bread in general is a non-count noun. How much bread did you eat, for example? Oh, I had 3 slices of bread.
So let's take a look at part one, a bag full of bread. Ned is reading a book when his roommate Mandy comes home carrying a shopping bag. So Ned is at home waiting for his roommate to come home. Mandy comes home and Ned asks, Hi, Mandy. What's in the bag?
What's in the bag indeed? So, of course, she has come back with a shopping bag. So, Ned wants to know what is inside the bag. And Mandy is unloading the bag. And she says, well, let's see. I've got a baguette, a couple of bagels, a croissant, some banana bread, and a loaf of ciabatta bread. These are different kinds of bread here. I know what a baguette is. That's kind of like a long piece of French bread. And a bagel, of course, is kind of like a hard donut. And a croissant is a piece of bread that's kind of soft and flaky, and it's in the shape of animal horns or something like that. And banana bread, I know what that is, but I'm not quite sure what ciabatta bread is. If you're a bread head, Kiki, maybe you can tell me what this is.
Well, ciabatta bread is actually one of my favorite kinds of bread because it's very versatile. Because you can slice it up and just dip it with red wine vinegar and olive oil. Usually they come in little rectangles, okay? So they're the equivalent of the French baguette to the Italians, okay? So the ciabatta bread is kind of a daily bread for them. And with the shape of this rectangular bread, you can actually cut it in half and people would make sandwiches out of it. You can put whatever you want, deli meats, cheese, or sometimes what I like to do if I'm late in the evening and I'm kind of hungry, I would just cut it up and maybe put some Nutella on it.
I'm not sure about the Nutella. I don't know if I've ever had that before, but of course you can put jam on it, maybe a piece of cheese, and as Kiki said, you can make it into a sandwich. And these are specialty kinds of bread that you can buy in special kinds of bakeries. I don't think you would find this at your local bakery in your neighborhood, but if you live in a big city like Taipei, Kaohsiung, or Taichung, or whatever, you can probably find some specialty bakeries that sell these types of bread. And Ned says, wow, that's a lot of bread. You bought a lot of bread there. Why did you buy such an abundant supply? So here, abundant just means a large amount of something. Yeah, what's the deal? What gives? Why are you buying so much bread?
So Mandy answers Ned, you know that new bakery down the street? So where they lived, a new bakery opened, a new bread shop opened up. So they're having a sale, a special sale, and everything is 40% off. So if I buy a loaf of bread that costs $100, I only have to pay $60 on that day. Or some other special sales may include buy one, get one free. So for a breadhead, that's really appealing. And I think for a lot of people that really love bread, the moment you walk into a bakery, you just nonstop, you just grab everything that looks so delicious to you. So that must have been what Mandy was thinking of, especially when they were having a special sale.
Indeed, so she's excited about that, and Ned is excited about that too. I did want to mention the word sale. They're having a sale. That word sounds very similar to the verb to sell. Okay, to sell, that's the verb. They sell things at special prices at sales, so be careful about the pronunciation of those vowels there, sell and sale. And yes, indeed, everything's 40% off at the new bakery down the street. And Ned says, ooh, that's quite a bargain. Of course, a bargain is a good deal. And of course, Mandy took advantage of that sale. She bought quite a lot of bread because, like Kiki, I think Mandy is also a bread head.
That's right. Mandy says, no kidding. And apparently their sales tactic worked because I got the urge to try quite a few of their offerings. Okay, so their offerings in this sense is that they were offering a lot of different types of bread, and because there was 40% off, so she really took advantage of this sale, okay, this price cut, okay? So she got the urge to want to buy the different types of bread that are on sale.
Indeed, so here we have the word urge, which means a desire. You really want to do something, and if you have the urge to do something, then you really want to do that thing. Maybe first thing in the morning, you have an urge to drink a cup of coffee or something like that. Or if you're a smoker, maybe you have the urge to smoke a cigarette or something. We don't advise you to do that, of course. But yes, indeed, we have all sorts of urges, desires to do something. And here, of course, she saw that all these types of bread were on sale. So she wanted to try quite a few of their offerings. And here an offering is just something that they are offering for sale. They've got different types of bread, such as the baguette, the bagels, the croissant, the banana bread, etc. Those are some examples of their offerings. I did want to mention that when I see the word offering, it reminds me of when I went to church when I was a kid. They passed around a tray during a certain time of the service, and you had to make an offering to the church. You had some money inside an envelope, and you put it in their little tray to help finance the church. They probably still do that. I don't know because I haven't been to church in many years.
Okay, and just to point out that at the beginning of the sentence, when Mandy says, no kidding, usually this is a way to describe that you really agree with the statement that somebody just mentioned. Okay, so no kidding is, oh, in a way, I really agree with what you said. You're kind of emphasizing that you're not joking about, you're pretty serious about what you said, and I really agree with what you said.
Right, there are different ways to really agree with what someone said. You could say, no kidding, you bet, right on, you said it, etc. Those are different ways to agree with the other person. And indeed, she was quite excited to buy those different kinds of bread. She had the urge to try some of their offerings. And Ned says, well, they certainly look tasty. Tasty just means they're probably delicious. They look like they would be delicious. And then Ned has a question. Are these your favorite kinds of bread? Are these your favorite, or do you like other kinds of bread? Maybe they were sold out or something.
Well, Mandy says basically, we saw her bring in a whole bag of bread, okay? So she basically bought everything that could be sold in the bakery, okay? But she says that ciabatta with olive oil is hard to beat, for example. How about you? So this is showing that she really likes ciabatta bread, and something as simple as just dipping ciabatta bread with olive oil is very yummy, hard to beat, okay? Hard to beat is you can't find anything that's better than this, or it's really hard to find something else that can be better than this.
Exactly. If you're looking for an exciting nighttime activity, for example, singing karaoke is hard to beat. It's a lot of fun. It's enjoyable. So indeed, that's how she's describing this ciabatta bread. Oh, it is so fun. It is such a wonderful experience to eat this bread with olive oil. It's really hard to beat. And then she asks Ned, how about you? Do you like these types of bread too? And Ned says, oh, I love all of these too, but I'm even more partial to some traditional Taiwanese breads. So if you're partial to something, that means you prefer that, you would rather have that than something else. Yes, I like those types of bread that you bought, but there, of course, are lots of different kinds of bread available here in good old Taiwan, and I kind of prefer those. I'm partial to traditional Taiwanese breads. And here, bread, of course, is adding an S to it, so that makes it countable. But if you're talking about different kinds of bread, then you can get away with using this as a countable noun.
Okay, and Mandy, she wants to know what types of Taiwanese bread Ned likes. So she asks, like what?
And Ned gives some examples of local types of bread, and he lists pineapple buns, scallion bread, and pork floss buns, just to name a few. If you say this just to name a few, that means I've given you a couple of examples, but there are many more that we could talk about. Okay, that brings us to the end of part 1 in today's lesson. Let's move on now to part 2, baking your own bread. Let's listen to Ned and Mandy's continuing conversation.
Baking your own bread. After trying some of Mandy's purchases, Ned and Mandy continue their discussion.
Thanks for the bagel. It really hit the spot.
You're welcome. And yeah, I think I'll be shopping at that bakery often.
Me too, although I do like to limit my consumption of store-bought bread to some degree.
Really? Why is that?
Mainly because I don't know exactly what ingredients they're using. And some places use too much sugar and butter, or just use low-quality ingredients.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Don't get me wrong, these seem like high-quality goodies, but I still prefer to know exactly what I'm eating.
Is that why you make your own meals so consistently?
It's definitely a big motivation for it.
Well, since we both love bread so much, how about we try baking our own sometime?
Sure, that'd be fun.
第二部分我们看到副词 consistently， 它的意思是持续的、 始终如一的或是一贯的。例如 Stephen failed the course because he was consistently late to class. Stephen 那个课程不及格，因为他上课总是迟到。又或者说 Ethan consistently maintained high grades throughout the semester. Ethan 在这学期期间一直保持着高分。另外，这个字去掉字尾 ly 就会变成形容词 consistent。例如 With consistent practice, you'll be surprised how fast your violin playing will improve. 持续练习的话，你会惊讶你的小提琴演奏进步的多快。再举一个例子 Jan's description of the night's events is consistent with her husband's. Jan 对于当晚事件的描述与她先生的一致。最后我们看到单字 motivation， 它是名词，意思是动力、诱因或是动机。举例来说 Jenny is smart, but she doesn't have enough motivation. Jenny 很聪明，但她做事动力不足。又或者是 The case puzzled the police because there seemed to be no clear motivation for the crime. 该起案件让警方感到困惑，因为似乎没有明确的犯罪动机。
Okay, so again, part 2 is all about baking your own bread. When you cook bread or when you prepare bread, you bake the bread because you're using an oven. You might want to bake a pie or bake a loaf of bread. And there are other ways to cook different kinds of food, but when we're talking about bread, we bake the bread.
Right. Now, in the conversation, we're hearing that after Ned and Mandy, they've tried some of the bread that Mandy bought and brought home. They decided that they wanted to try to make their own bread.
Indeed. So Ned, of course, is grateful. He says, thanks for the bagel. It really hit the spot. Bagels are pretty cool because they come in all sorts of different flavors, and you can put jam on them or cream cheese or whatever. So, of course, he really enjoyed the bagel that Mandy offered him. He says it really hit the spot. We say that sometimes when we describe food as being very tasty. Ooh, it hit the spot. I remember having a bowl of spicy hot noodles in Kunming many years ago, and I thought, ooh, it really hit the spot. That was so tasty.
Or, I'm so hungry right now, and just a little pork bun really hits the spot.
You could also say it did the trick, which means it's just what I wanted. It's just what the doctor ordered. I really needed to have that. It was so tasty. And then Mandy says, well, you're welcome, no problem. And yeah, I think I'll be shopping at that bakery often. So they had a sale there. Of course, later on, they won't have a sale, but she's still willing to go down there to buy their bread items because they are oh so tasty. They really hit the spot.
Right. And Ned says, me too. Although I do like to limit my consumption of store-bought bread to some degree. So Ned agrees that they can go to that bakery more often, but he really wants to limit. He doesn't want to have store-bought bread that often. So limit my consumption is to limit the amount that you eat or you drink of something, okay? So you don't want to have too much of something. It could be liquids, it could be food. So he really doesn't want to have too much store-bought stuff. So store-bought is things that are prepared in a factory or prepared in a industrial kitchen and then put into stores for sale. So sometimes this might include various chemicals to try to keep the food fresher for longer. So sometimes people, they don't really want to buy a lot of store-bought food.
This does happen sometimes. Of course, if you eat out, you never really know what kinds of ingredients they're using or what kind of oil they're using. So he likes to limit his consumption or his eating of bread that is bought in an actual bakery because he's not really sure about the ingredients, what he says later. And to some degree just means to a certain extent. I don't like to do it too much, basically. And Mandy says, really? Why is that? What are your reasons for limiting your consumption of store-bought bread? And he says, well, it's mainly because I don't know exactly what ingredients they're using. And of course, ingredients are the parts of something that make up a whole. For bread, those ingredients would include what? Flour and yeast, salt, sugar, things like that.
Right. And Ned goes on to say, some places they use too much sugar and butter or just use low-quality ingredients. So my sister, she's a baker. So she was explaining to me that nowadays certain types of flour, they're not prepared well. So the gluten content in it, it's not processed properly. So for a lot of people, they might get sick. Their tummy might get really bloated after they eat certain types of bread. So this is what Ned is concerned about because it might be low quality. The ingredient, the type of flour that they used, it might be low quality. And low quality just means that maybe it's not very good. The standard that they check the flour or the standard that they produce the flour is not very good, or the control of it isn't very highly inspected. So these might be low quality ingredients.
Yeah, the bakery might think, oh, nobody's going to know the difference. We're going to use this low quality flour or this low quality oil. Nobody will be able to tell, and we can sell it at a better profit. And Mandy says, well, you're probably right. And Ned says, don't get me wrong. These seem like high quality goodies. So don't get me wrong. That's when you want to make sure the other person is not misunderstanding you. She might think that he's saying that the bread items she bought were bad for her or him. But she said, well, don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. These seem pretty high quality. Goodies, of course, are good things to eat. And he goes on to say, but I still prefer to know exactly what I'm eating. And Mandy says, is that why you make your own meals so consistently? And consistently here is the adverb form of consistent, which is an adjective, which means you continue doing something for the same way and you don't change.
Right. So you can use this in another sentence like, Tina studied consistently in order to improve her grades. So Tina, she keeps studying because she wants to get better grades.
And Ned continues, it's definitely a big motivation for it. Motivation just means something that causes you to do something. What's your motivation to go to a certain university? Well, they have a good program, and later after I graduate, I want to get a good job. That's my motivation for going to that university. And Mandy says, well, since we both love bread so much, how about we try baking our own sometime? That does sound like a good suggestion to try to do it yourself. And Ned says, sure, that'd be fun, or that would be fun. So in the future, I guess they're going to try to bake some bread together. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在课文第二部分的对话里， Ned 和 Mandy 已经试吃了 Mandy 买的东西。那么这时候 Ned 说 Thanks for the bagel, it really hit the spot。 他说的这个 It really hit the spot 表示说很合我的胃口。好，我们知道说动词 hit 它有击或是打的意思，那么 spot 就是点，刚好打在某个点上就表示恰到好处，正中下怀，正中要点的那种意思。我们常常就用 hit the spot 来描述美食，它是令人心满意足的，正合某人的胃口，可以带来大大的满足。举例来说 On a hot day like this, an ice cream would really hit the spot。 像这样的大热天来一支冰淇淋绝对令人心满意足。好，那我们也来学习几个跟 spot 相关的用语。第一个叫做 soft spot， 这表示对某人或某事的强烈喜爱，那常常会用单数 have a soft spot for 加上人或事物，这就好像说你心里有一部分是软软的，然后对这个某人或某事物会特别心软，那可以用来表达说对什么情有独钟，对什么无法招架，就是没有办法解释的说你特别的喜爱这个东西。举例来说 She has a soft spot for donuts， 她对甜甜圈无法招架，她非常喜爱甜甜圈。好，第二个补充的用语是 blind spot， 表示盲点，它可以指视线的死角，也可以用来描述某人看不到自己的缺点，或者是察觉不到某事情或某个问题。像 Most parents have a blind spot when it comes to their children， 说到孩子，大部分的爸妈都会有盲点。好，那么再来第三个补充的是 sweet spot， 它原本是指这个球杆球拍或是球棒上面最有效的击球点，像在打高尔夫球、打网球、打棒球的时候，大家都会希望球呢是打在最佳击球位置，那个位置呢就是 sweet spot。 这个用语就是用来比喻说最有效的点、最有效的位置、最佳时间点。那有时候也会有人把它翻译成甜蜜点的意思。好，举例来说 Richard has found the sweet spot for his work-life balance。Richard 已经找到他工作与生活的最佳平衡点，找到那个甜蜜点了。好，那么第4个补充的是 on the spot。这个副词片语它可以表达立刻、立即，意思就会相当于 immediately。那么它也可以指事情发生的当场、现场，像 he was fired on the spot， 他当场就被炒鱿鱼、被开除了。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Abundant. The good weather resulted in an abundant crop this year. Urge. The call of a wolf in the distance filled Spencer with the urge to run. Offering. The Italian restaurant has some delicious pasta offerings. Partial. Unlike many cats, Marcia's cat is not partial to milk. Consumption. The doctor said Daniel's sugar consumption is too high. Consistently. Tina studied consistently in order to improve her grades. Motivation. The desire to make lots of money was Martha's only motivation for taking the job.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Kiki.
See you next time.